Hi, my name is Przemek Chojecki and this video is about repercussions of GPT-3 and the effect it may have on our world, on business, on commercial side, as well as all of the people or all of the ordinary people who are not working in tech, who are not running the startup. So let's start with actually general question, what is a GPT-3? Why it's important to discuss it and what then it might bring. So first of all, GPT-3 is number 3 in the families of models developed by OpenAI. It's the largest to date with 175 billion parameters, and that's really a lot. So we're talking about GPT-3 here, and the principle is simple because you have this big model with a goal to actually predict the next word that you're giving. You're giving some kind of a prompt to the model, so the input text that can be a longer text and you want to say summarize this text for me, or you want to give a question and you expect an answer, so that can be anything like that. And because the model is seeing so much data, it can predict what comes next, it can predict the style, it can predict the answer. And the great thing about GPT-3 is it's 10 times bigger than the previous largest model, which was Turing-NLG from Microsoft. And it really works miracles sometimes because not only it learned basic answers to basic questions like who's the Queen of England or when the Second World War started, but also it can perform this miraculous translation from simple English to some of the much harder tasks, other languages, and not necessarily human languages, but also code like HTML, CSS, SQL, Python. So the huge thing about GPT-3 is not any of the algorithms is not new. This kind of transformer models were already around for, I guess, 2-3 years. So that's still pretty recent, but nothing really much changed when it comes to structure of the algorithm. What's really new is the scale, and the scale here is really massive, and this is the biggest thing here. So that's also the huge, the main difference between GPT-3 and GPT-2. If you compare the two, GPT-3 is 10 times bigger than GPT-2. So GPT-2 had 1.5 billion parameters, GPT-3 has 175 billion parameters, so it's over 100 times bigger. And because of that, and because of the training data, which is also much bigger than it was for GPT-2, because GPT-3 basically uses filtered common crawl, C4, developed by Google while working at T5 algorithm, another generation model. This is much bigger than what was previously done for GPT-2. So for GPT-2, basically the guys at OpenAI downloaded different data sets, looking at Reddit and downloading articles which were sourced from Reddit and had at least a higher ranking. Plus, of course, data like Wikipedia and stuff which are pretty much standard. With Common Crawl, the source and the scope of the data is much larger, and this can be seen also in the applications and what you can do with GPT-3. So to some extent, you actually don't know what the model can do so far. We only learn about applications as we go. There's currently a beta API access to GPT-3. You can apply to that and you'll be put on a waiting list, and some of the people are already testing and spreading the news about GPT-3 and its wondrous applications. And if you go on Twitter and search for like GPT-3, you will see these applications. So that's really amazing. I want to discuss those here. I also recorded a short video about different use cases, but so if you want to see them in practice, go to that video. In this, I just want to have this meta view on everything that is possible and that will probably be possible as well. So we're seeing two kind of applications so far. So on the one hand, it's auto-completion of different sets of data. And this is basically something which was already done with GPT-2 and previous models, which is, so for example, you have a text, you want to generate a new text, you give a headline and you want to have the whole text based on that. Or you ask a simple question and you want to have an answer to that. And basically even GPT-2 can do something like that, but it's not necessarily perfect. More interesting is the fact that GPT-3 is able to recognize patterns in data in spreadsheets and can autocomplete that. So there's this cool example when someone actually puts, like, for example, different Twitter handles of people, and GPT-3 is giving him the handle of missing people, of missing handles of these people, or stuff like population of different countries, regions. So it's much better at understanding the structure of the text, the structure of the data you're feeding the model. On the other hand, really cool examples actually follow the pattern of simple English to something else. And this something else can be either code, design, and this includes examples like build me a website or build me a mock-up with particular features, like one small button saying sign up, one big button saying free trial, and so on. And then what GPT-3 does is it translates this sentence or these sentences into really something like HTML, CSS code, or it gives you a Figma design. That's also very cool application. So it really is able to be an interface between human needs and machines. So in some way, this actually circumvents the need for developers. So that's why it's also interesting to think about it. So this is simple English to code, design, and stuff like that, like we discussed. Yeah, so those are the two main applications. I probably will be seeing much more of those because it's yet a lot to discover when it comes to the scope of the text being crawled and the application that you can think about. And also it's all about connecting various APIs and seeing how well GPT-3 is able to understand the patterns in text, in data. So the big question is whether GPT-3 is intelligent. The short answer is no. Also, if you look at the some of the tests already mentioned in the original paper, so language models are few-shot learners, that's the title of the paper from OpenAI, you quickly learn that basically it's able to perform well on simple Q&A questions, but when it comes to more complicated reasoning tasks, it's not performing that well. So in a way, it's good at understanding what's already been written somewhere rather than trying to make new predictions, or it definitely won't produce any new breakthrough research, say in biology, mathematics, or anything like that. So researchers are pretty safe when it comes to their jobs. On the other hand, it's really great at understanding what are human needs and transferring that to like machine code, be that in HTML, Python, or other language. So this is basically my prediction for the future when it comes to GPT-3. As it becomes more standard and other models like that will become available, because we should also expect other players like Nvidia, who's responsible for Megatron model, also one of the largest in the past half a year, and also Microsoft, who did Turing-NLG. We probably should expect more models like GPT-3. Also probably Google will add something on top of the T5. So I would assume that at least a couple of models like that would exist very soon. Within the next 6 months, you probably have a couple of models like that with open API to some extent. It's really cool that OpenAI is here the first one, and the credits should go definitely to them. But I expect that you will have many more models like that and ready to be commercially applied. So that's the thing we should see probably in this year yet. So another thing is, so on the one hand, this will be a new interface for human-machine interactions, as I have written here. And what I mean by that is that it will be much easier to actually communicate with the machines, with computers, other devices, and make them do what you want them to do without actually learning to code. So this might be a bad news for developers. This is a good news for everyone else, because what it does, it is basically a democratization of technology, which means that more people will have a wider access to technology, to the current changes. More people will be able to code without knowing any code. So that goes well into this direction of no code prototypes. So it's really interesting to see how it play out. In the end, I guess this kind of GPT-3-like models will hugely influence how we interact with the machines, and as such will drive really the democratization of technology. So if you're a creative guy, if you're a creative gal, and you have the great idea for a new startup, new application, then it will be super easy to run it, because you won't even need to collaborate with any other person, rather than just connect a couple of APIs automatically and communicate with GPT-3 to do everything for you. And basically it would be like talking to a designer, talking about your project, giving him different prompts on what you would like to see in the prototype, and basically seeing that on screen right away, and then iterating over this process unless you get satisfactory results. So this is what's happening already right now. And if you look for applications in like with CSS, HTML, or Figma files, especially design, this is very visible already. And with new models coming and being open to the market, this will become even more apparent. So in general, I think this is like a great application. This is the largest change when it comes to actually repercussions of GPT-3. Another kind of repercussions will be on the commercial side. So for people working in the space, from developers to people doing automation and different RPAs, because one of the great things is that GPT-3 will allow to the much more robust solutions when it comes to automation. So for example, you can imagine that right now there's a huge problem in RPAs that you have to code a lot of things because it's not automated. You need to have the scripts for those robotic process automation for these robotic processes, and basically you have to script everything. And with GPT-3 you will be able to describe that in simple English, and instead of trying to change that into code, you'll be able to get the code right away from GPT-3 and similar models. So this is really the same kind of direction where you actually circumvent the need for developers. And this is also great because this is not necessarily a bad news for developers. I'll talk a little bit about it in a moment, but this is great news for entrepreneurs who are actually have this problem of finding good people to join their team, because that's always a problem. There are not enough of good developers who can do so many things that you would need. So GPT-3 can be your developer of choice if you don't have other choices, and maybe that'll be easier to actually iterate over your product, build an MVP, show something working. It definitely, in the end, it won't be it won't supervise all the coding work, so that's a good news for developers, at least not for now, because you need to add much more. And because GPT-3 is not intelligent, and in general it's not enough to just build a transformer-like model for that to become intelligent, but that's probably a different discussion. We should expect though that some of the repetitive jobs of developers, like for example, like scripting these RPA systems or scripting various tasks which are really repetitive, that will go away. So especially entry-level positions where there's no much creativity in it, those can go away pretty fast. But especially when it comes to harder tasks, harder jobs, something much more creative than just copying what's already somewhere there on the internet, this will go basically to GPT-3 and similar models. So that's a good news, because in the end developers will be able to focus on more creative stuff, and instead of copying, pasting different pieces of code from GitHub or other sources on Stack Overflow, they will be able to focus on stuff like how to really go deeper, do a little bit research, find something original. So I think it will be really interesting. So basically that's it. That's what I have to say about the future of GPT-3. I'm really excited about what will happen next, especially that I'm working in the space. I'm basically building Contentize, the content generation platform. So we're playing around with similar models. If you want to have a look at it, just go to contentize.com. You can register for free, start using it, and let me know your feedback. If you have any feedback related to GPT-3, if you have tested it yourself or you would like to test it yourself, please let me know in the comments. I'm super happy to know what you think about it, what's the future for this kind of transformers, this kind of large models, and the future of jobs in general. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to my channel and see you in the next episode.